The footage that shocked everyone. The video hit the internet like a thunderclap. And within minutes, NBA fans everywhere were asking the same question. How did a finals rivalry turn into Victor Wembanyama getting surrounded outside a New York hotel? This was not just another loud night outside Madison Square Garden. This was not just fans yelling after a heartbreaking game. This was the moment the line between passion and chaos almost disappeared completely. The Spurs had just walked out of one of the most painful losses of their season. A massive lead had slipped away. Momentum had vanished. The Knicks had stolen the night, the city was shaking, and San Antonio was trying to escape Manhattan quietly before the noise got even worse. But outside the team hotel, quiet was impossible. A crowd of Knicks fans had already gathered, waiting for the Spurs to arrive. Phones were up, voices were rising. Some fans were shouting Wembanyama's name like he was the villain in a movie. Others were laughing, taunting, pushing closer to the entrance as security tried to create space. Then came the moment that changed everything. As Wembanyama stepped toward the hotel doors, objects started flying through the air. One of them cracked nearby. Another appeared to come dangerously close to him. In the middle of the flashing cameras and screaming crowd, Wemby ducked, turned, and looked back. He did not swing. He did not charge into the crowd. He did not give New York the reaction it wanted, but his face said enough. That look was cold, controlled, almost shocked, but not afraid. And that single moment instantly became one of the most talked about images of the entire NBA final. Because this was bigger than one egg, bigger than one angry fan, bigger than one ugly scene outside a luxury hotel. This was the explosion of everything that had been building for days. The shove on Jalen Brunson, the no call that had Knicks fans furious, the smirk that made New York feel disrespected, the controversial contact with OG Anunoby, the viral clips, the accusations, the missed free throws, the 2-9-point collapse. And now, the streets of Manhattan had turned Wembanyama into public enemy number one. But here's the real question. Did Wembanyama become a target because he crossed the line on the court, or did New York cross the line first? Before we break down the full story, tell me where you are watching from right now. If you think Knicks fans went too far, press 1-inch the comments. If you think Wembanyama brought this pressure on himself, press 2. And if you want more NBA stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because this finals drama is only getting darker from here. A 2-9-point collapse that changed everything. Before the eggs, before the hotel entrance, before Wembanyama became the face of New York's anger, there was one number that explained why the city was already losing its mind. 29. That was the lead San Antonio had. 29 points in an NBA Finals game. On the road, inside Madison Square Garden, against a Knicks team carrying the weight of more than 5 decades without a championship. For most teams, that kind of lead is a statement. For the Spurs, it looked like control. Wembanyama was everywhere. He was protecting the rim, changing shots, forcing the Knicks into rushed decisions, and making the entire Garden feel like the night had already been stolen. New York fans were quiet for a moment. Not silent, but nervous. You could feel it in the building, the kind of silence that does not mean peace, it means fear. Because Knicks fans knew what was at stake. This was not just another playoff game. This was a finals game in a city starving for a title since 1973. They had waded through rebuilds, heartbreaks, failed stars, bad contracts, false hope, and years of being laughed at by the rest of the league. And now, here came Wembanyama, the young giant from San Antonio, walking into their building like he was ready to ruin the dream. But then the game started to shift. The Knicks did not explode all at once. They chipped away. One stop, one rebound, one Brunson drive, one Towns bucket, one Anunoby defensive play. Suddenly, the Garden woke up again. The noise came back slowly, then violent. Every missed Spurs shot felt louder. Every Knicks basket felt heavier. Wembanyama, who had looked untouchable early, started to look human. The Spurs started playing not to lose instead of playing to win. That is when panic entered the room. A 2-9-point lead became 20, then 14, then single digits, and once New York believed again, the entire emotional temperature of the series changed. The Knicks were no longer just trying to win a game. They were trying to humiliate the team that had embarrassed them. They were trying to punish the player they believed had disrespected their captain. They were trying to turn the finals into something personal. By the final minutes, San Antonio looked frozen. Wembanyama still had the numbers, but the moment was starting to weigh on him. The crowd was attacking every touch. Every whistle, every collision, every free throw became a referendum on who he really was under pressure. Then came the missed free throws, 2 shots that could have changed the ending, 2 shots that could have quieted New York, Two shots that could have saved the Spurs from one of the most painful collapses in finals history, but they did not fall. And when the Knicks completed the comeback, the Garden did not just celebrate. It erupted like years of pain had been released in one night. San Antonio had not just lost the game, they had lost control of the story. Because after a collapse like that, people do not remember all the early dominance. They remember the failure. They remember the face of the star walking off the court. They remember who missed the shots when the game was begging to be won. For Wembanyama, that night became the beginning of something darker. He was no longer just the Spurs' franchise player. In the eyes of New York, he was the villain who almost stole their dream, then cracked when the pressure hit back. And the city was not finished with him yet. The Brunson incident. To understand why Knicks fans were so furious at Wembanyama, you have to go back to the moment that made this rivalry feel personal. It happened in Game 3, before the hotel chaos, before the Anunoby clip, before the internet started replaying every Wembanyama movement like courtroom evidence. Jalen Brunson was fighting for position near the free throw line. Brunson is not the biggest player on the floor, but in New York, he is the heart of everything. He is the captain, the engine, the man who dragged the Knicks back into national respect. To Knicks fans, touching Brunson is not just basketball. It feels like touching the soul of the team. Wembanyama and Brunson got tangled for a second. There was contact, there was pushing, nothing unusual for the finals, but then Wembanyama shoved Brunson down and the Garden immediately exploded. The shocking part was not only the shove, it was the silence after it. No whistle, no immediate punishment. No flagrant foul. Brunson got up angry, staring at Wembanyama like he could not believe what had just happened. And then came the moment Knicks fans would replay over and over again. Wembanyama appeared to laugh. That image did more damage than the contact itself. Because fans can argue about physicality. They can argue about whether a play was intentional. They can debate angles, momentum, balance, and body position. But emotion does not wait for replay review. And when New York saw Brunson on the floor and Wembanyama smirking, the city made up its mind. From that second, Wemby was no longer just dangerous. He was disrespectful. The Garden crowd turned hostile instantly. Every time he touched the ball, the boos followed. Every screen looked suspicious. Every hard move was treated like proof. The game was still being played on the court, but another game had already started in the minds of fans. The NBA later acknowledged that a foul had been missed, but for Knicks fans, that only made it worse. Because admitting the mistake without changing anything felt like another insult. That is where the anger became layered. First, Brunson was shoved. Then the call was missed. Then Wembanyama laughed. Then the league admitted the officials got it wrong. Then nothing meaningful happened. To New York, it looked like their captain had been disrespected in his own house, while the league protected the new superstar. And whether that was fair or not, perception became reality. Former players started talking. Fans started posting. Every account with a Knicks logo turned the clip into a symbol of injustice. The words dirty, protected, and arrogant started following Wembanyama around social media. For Spurs fans, it was simple. This was finals basketball. Physical, emotional, intense. They saw New York overreacting because the Knicks had finally met a player they could not intimidate. But for Knicks fans, this was not normal physicality. This was the moment Wembanyama crossed the invisible line between competing hard and disrespecting their city. And the worst part for New York, San Antonio won that game. So Wembanyama did not just shove Brunson, he did not just laugh, he walked out of Madison Square Garden with the victory too. That combination was gasoline, a missed call, a fallen captain, a smirking superstar, a Spurs win. By the time Game 4 arrived, the crowd was not just cheering for the Knicks anymore. They were waiting for Wembanyama to answer for what they believed he had done. The city declares war. After the Brunson incident, New York turned against Wembanyama fast. The reaction did not stay inside Madison Square Garden. It exploded across social media, sports shows, and fan pages. Knicks fans felt Brunson had been disrespected, the officials had missed the call, and the league had protected Wembanyama because he was the NBA's next superstar. By Game 4, the Garden felt less like an arena and more like a courtroom. Every time Wemby touched the ball, boos came down. Every screen, every bump, every hard move was watched closely. To Spurs fans, he was simply playing finals basketball. To Knicks fans, he had become the villain. The more Wembanyama stayed calm, the angrier the crowd became. He did not apologize. He did not back down. He kept playing through the noise, and that only made New York feel even more disrespected. Outside the arena, the mood was getting darker too. Watch parties became tense. Viral clips showed confrontations, and police presence grew. What started as passion for the Knicks was turning into something more dangerous. By the end of it, the message was clear. This was no longer just Knicks versus Spurs. This was New York versus Wemby. The OG Anunoby controversy, then another clip went viral, and the fire got even bigger. During Game 4, Wembanyama moved into a screen action near OG Anunoby. From the first angle, it looked bad. His body seemed to lunge awkwardly toward Anunoby's leg, and Knicks fans immediately accused him of playing dirty. To New York, this felt like a pattern. First Brunson, now OG. Every physical play from Wembanyama was being treated like evidence. But then a second angle appeared, and the story became less clear. It looked like Wembanyama may have been pushed off balance, making the contact seem more accidental than intentional. Still, Knicks fans were not ready to forgive him. They had already decided what they believed. And because Anunoby later became one of the heroes of the Knicks comeback, the drama felt even stronger. The man Wemby was accused of almost hurting became one of the players who helped break San Antonio's heart. Now Wembanyama was under a microscope. Every step, every bump, every collision could become the next viral controversy. Truth or manipulation? By this point, the finals were no longer being judged only by the scoreboard. They were being judged by clips. A few seconds from one camera angle could change the entire reputation of a player. One slow motion replay could turn an accident into an accusation. One viral post could make millions of fans believe they had seen the full truth even when they had only seen a piece of it. That was the danger surrounding Wembanyama. The first angle of the Anunoby play made him look guilty. The second angle made the situation look far more complicated. But by then, the damage had already been done. Knicks fans had already decided he was reckless. Spurs fans had already decided New York was hunting for excuses. Neutral fans were split down the middle, arguing all night about whether Wembanyama was becoming unfairly targeted or finally being exposed. And that is where the story became bigger than basketball. Because in the modern NBA, perception moves faster than truth. A player can explain himself after the game, the league can review the play, analysts can break down the angles, but none of that travels as fast as the first emotional reaction. For Wembanyama, the problem was simple. He was too visible to hide. At his size, every awkward movement looked dramatic. Every collision looked heavier. Every screen looked dangerous. When a normal guard bumps into someone, it may look like regular contact. When Wembanyama does it, it looks like a storm crossing the floor. That does not make him guilty, but it does make him vulnerable. And New York understood that. The crowd knew every whistle mattered now. Every time Wemby reached, bumped, turned, or stepped into traffic, thousands of fans reacted before the officials even moved. He was playing basketball under a microscope. The hardest part was that Wembanyama could not completely change who he was. His game is built on size, reach, timing, and physical presence. If he became too careful, the Spurs would lose their anchor. If he played too aggressively, the Knicks would scream for a flagrant. That is the trap. New York had not just challenged his skill, it had challenged his control. And heading into the next game, that question became unavoidable. Could Wembanyama stay dominant without giving the city one more reason to explode? Chaos. Outside Madison Square Garden. The hotel incident did not happen in isolation. That is what made it so disturbing. The eggs thrown near Wembanyama were not just the actions of one emotional fan after one emotional game. They were part of a larger storm that had been growing around the finals for days. New York was celebrating, but the celebration had turned sharp. Watch parties outside Madison Square Garden and around the city were packed with fans, desperate to witness history. The Knicks were closer to a championship than they had been in generations, and every win made the city feel like it was standing on the edge of something unforgettable. But that passion started spilling into dangerous territory. After earlier games, reports of disturbances began spreading. Fans crowded the streets. Police moved in. Videos showed arguments, pushing, shouting, and confrontations between rival supporters. What should have been a basketball celebration started to look like a warning sign, and the Spurs became the target, not just the players. Their fans, too. San Antonio supporters who wore jerseys or colors in the wrong place at the wrong time found themselves surrounded, mocked, and sometimes chased through hostile crowds. Some Knicks fans condemned it immediately, saying this was not what real basketball passion should look like. But the clips kept coming. That is why the Wembanyama hotel footage felt so explosive, because people had already seen the mood turning ugly. When the Spurs bus arrived, the crowd outside was not calm. It was charged. Some fans wanted a reaction. Some wanted content for their phones. Some wanted to be part of the viral moment. And when Wembanyama appeared, all of that energy focused on him. He was no longer just a player walking into a hotel. He was the symbol of every missed call, every controversial play, every second of frustration Knicks fans had carried through the series. That is how sports passion becomes dangerous. It starts with loyalty, then it becomes anger, then the opponent stops looking human and starts looking like an enemy. And once that happens, the game loses its meaning, because rivalries are supposed to be loud. They are supposed to be emotional. They are supposed to make cities feel alive. But throwing objects, threatening players, and attacking fans is not passion. It is losing control. And in that moment outside the hotel, the entire NBA had to face an uncomfortable truth. The finals had become bigger, louder, and uglier than anyone expected. Wembanyama's surprising response. After everything that happened, most people expected Wembanyama to be angry. They expected a long statement. They expected frustration. They expected him to call out the fans, the city, maybe even the league. After all, this was a two-year-old superstar in the middle of the NBA Finals, dealing with accusations, boos, viral clips, missed free throws, and now objects being thrown near him outside his own hotel. But Wembanyama did not give the world the reaction it was waiting for. He stayed calm. That may have been the most surprising part of the entire story. When asked about the hotel incident, he did not turn it into a war of words. He did not insult Knicks fans. He did not try to make himself look like a victim. He simply brushed it off, almost like he refused to let the chaos own him. And that response changed the tone. Because the same player New York had painted as arrogant, reckless, and disrespectful suddenly looked more mature than the people attacking him. He understood something many fans had forgotten in the heat of the moment. It is still just a game. That does not mean the finals are not important. That does not mean players do not care. That does not mean fans should stop being passionate. But there is a line between passion and obsession, and Wembanyama's calm reaction made that line impossible to ignore. He had every reason to escalate. Instead, he chose restraint. That matters, because young superstars are often judged not only by how they dominate, but by how they survive pressure. Anybody can look confident when the arena loves them. The real test comes when the crowd hates you, when the internet mocks you, when every mistake becomes a headline. Wembanyama was learning that test in real time. Still, calm does not erase pressure. Game 5 was waiting. The Spurs were on the edge of elimination, the Knicks had all the momentum, and Wembanyama was carrying not only his team's hopes, but the weight of an entire narrative that had turned against him. If he won, he could change the story. If he lost, New York would celebrate his collapse forever. That is the cruel beauty of the finals. One game can make you a legend. One mistake can follow you for years. One mistake away from disaster. Now everything comes down to Game 5. The Spurs are back in San Antonio, but home court does not erase what just happened in New York. The collapse still follows them. The missed free throws still follow Wembanyama. The Brunson shove, the Anunoby controversy, the flagrant foul, the hotel footage, all of it is traveling with him. And the most dangerous part is this: Wembanyama cannot afford one more mistake. He is already walking a tightrope with the officials. Every hard contest, every screen, every elbow, every awkward landing will be watched closely. The Knicks know it, the referees know it, the fans know it, and Wembanyama knows it too. That puts him in an impossible position. If he plays soft, the Spurs may get eliminated. If he plays too physical, he risks giving the league a reason to punish him. That is the mental trap New York has forced him into. They may not be in San Antonio physically, but their pressure is still inside his head. Every boo from Madison Square Garden has turned into a question he must answer on the court. Can he stay aggressive without losing control? Can he dominate without giving the Knicks another viral clip? Can he carry the Spurs when the entire basketball world is waiting to see whether he breaks? For San Antonio, Game 5 is not just about strategy. It is about survival. They need Wembanyama to be great, but they also need him to be disciplined. They need him to protect the rim, punish mismatches, hit free throws, and control his emotions at the same time. That is a lot to ask from any player, but that is what greatness demands. For the Knicks, the mission is clear. Keep attacking, keep testing him, keep making him defend in traffic, keep forcing him into uncomfortable decisions, because one bad reaction could change the game. One careless foul could swing the series. One more moment of frustration could become the final image of San Antonio's season. And for Wembanyama, this is where reputation is built. Not in easy wins, not in highlight blocks, not in regular season dominance. Reputation is built when the crowd hates you, the series is slipping away, and everyone is waiting for you to fail. Game 5 is more than a basketball game now. It is Wembanyama's judgment night, the lesson beyond basketball. But when the noise fades, when the clips stop trending, and when the final buzzer finally decides this series, one truth will still remain. Basketball is supposed to bring people together, not turn them into enemies. What happened around Wembanyama was bigger than one player and one city. It showed how quickly passion can turn into anger when fans forget that the people on the court are still human. They miss shots, they make mistakes, they react emotionally. They carry pressure most people will never understand. Wembanyama is not perfect. He played physical, he made controversial plays, he missed huge free throws. He gave New York reasons to boo him, but none of that makes it acceptable for fans to throw objects, threaten players, or attack supporters from another team. That is not rivalry, that is crossing the line. The Knicks have waited more than 50 years for this kind of moment. Their fans deserve to celebrate, to believe, to dream, and to feel every second of this finals run. But the strongest fan bases are not measured only by how loud they cheer. They are measured by whether they can win with class. For Wembanyama, this series may become one of the most important lessons of his young career. Talent can make you famous, pressure can make you stronger, but composure is what separates a star from a true leader. He now understands what it means to be the villain in someone else's story. He understands what it feels like when an entire city turns against you. And if he learns from this, he may come back even tougher, smarter, and more controlled. That is the real beauty of sports. Pain can become growth. Failure can become fuel. Rivalry can become respect. At the end of the day, the game is at its best when passion stays inside the lines, when players battle hard but leave safely, and when fans remember that winning should never cost someone their dignity. So now I want to hear from you. Did Knicks fans go too far, or did Wembanyama bring this storm on himself? Press 1 if the fans crossed the line. Press 2 if Wemby created his own pressure. And if you believe NBA rivalries should stay passionate but respectful, like this video, share it with another basketball fan, and subscribe for more NBA stories that go deeper than the scoreboard.